On this program, we shall focus on matters of public importance, bringing you information, discussions on issues and matters that are of concern to you, the Guyanese public, every Thursday between 12:30 and 1:30 p.m. right here on Channel 6. Well, today has been a rainy day. We've had a lot of rain in the last few days, so I walk with my raincoat, my umbrella, my boots, and had to use all of them. And then all of a sudden the sun is out. But lots of rain, and lots of rain also in the interior, Region 9, and all these areas, flooding that we've seen in different parts of Region 7 and Region 8. So lots and lots of rain. So take precautions, and let's hope that we won't have too much, like in 2005. As I said, as normal, before we get into the meat of the program, I remind you about the telephone numbers you're to call, and we shall start at around 1 o'clock taking calls, 225-0010 and 225-0008. 225-0010 and 225-0008. And as I always remind you that the Office of the Leader of the Opposition is at 304 Church Street between New Garden and Peter Rose Streets, Queenstown, and that we're open for business and to hear you, to listen to your views and concerns, starting from about 9 in the morning to 5:30 in the afternoon, Monday to Friday, and then on Saturdays we go from about 9:30 to 1:30 p.m. And there are different members of Parliament are there, Dr. Roger Luncheon, former head of the Presidential Secretariat, former Prime Minister Sam Hines, and of course the Leader of the Opposition, Barry Jagdeo. So please feel free to drop in if you have issues and concerns that you wish to raise with us. We're here to represent everybody, whether they voted for us or not in 2015 elections. And of course, if you'd like to call, 225-3432. Remember, 32 being the last two digits, 32 members of Parliament for the PPP. That might help you to remember the numbers. Some of you may not be familiar with Freedom Radio, and so again, I'd like to introduce you to that radio station. FM 91.1 Demerara, 90.5 Berbice, and 90.7 Essequibo. And we have been able to correct a number of the technical problems we were having, and so we should be accessible from coast to coast to be able to access Freedom Radio. And of course, they're call-in programs, they're chat programs, and every day. And we're adding more programs to it, so you'll be able to listen to a variety of matters, not only political issues being dealt with on the radio program. Well, you know, where was I? Wasn't here last week, was I? And so after the June 1st, 2017 program I was overseas as part of the United Kingdom Electoral Assessment Mission to observe the UK general elections on June the 8th, 2017. It was the first time that the Guyana Parliament had been invited to send an MP to observe the UK elections. And whilst we observed some things that needed to be addressed and need to be addressed to protect the voters' privacy and the lack of any identification for a person to vote, as well as some other concerns we observed, for which our mission made recommendations, the whole electoral system is premised on custom and practice and trust. The Brits trust their electoral system, and they trust the electoral system will deliver an election that reflects the will of the people, free and fair, and free from fear. Amazing, huh? It was quite a shock to me, because we did see vulnerabilities, we did see weaknesses, and everywhere you went, people said, yeah, there are some issues, there's some concerns, but we know in the end, we trust the system. Amazing, as I said. Yes, it is amazing that even though we saw weaknesses, as I said, and vulnerabilities in the electoral system, not one British person we spoke to, whether in Scotland, Wales, or England, had any concern that election machinery was not to be trusted. In fact, some of us thought that these same weaknesses, if seen in our countries, that is, developing countries, would have gone into some observer mission's report for further action and remedy. Isn't that so? Is it so? TRUST, a small word with major implications for relations between humans and animals, between man and woman, within and between families, between and amongst communities, and amongst persons in a nation and between nations. Trust. But you see, the Brits have no history of rigged elections. They have no history of having had half of the population being alienated and marginalized by having their votes stolen from them. And so one has to start on where the trust comes from or where the distrust comes from. When you have a population 20 odd years ago, 30 years ago, between 1968 and 1985, of rigged elections, one after the other, including a referendum, then the issue of trust becomes a major obstacle to being able to build a machinery that everybody has confidence in. And so even our efforts prior to 1992 to develop a formula to give due recognition to the political and ethnic insecurities with what has been called the Carter Center formula is presently under siege. This formula was put into law in the first term of the People's Progressive Party government, and then put into the Constitution during the constitutional reform process of 1999 to 2001. The formula removed from the President his sole right to appoint the chairperson and members of the Guyana Elections Commission, and went further, not only removed it from the President, but decided that there be 3 appointments that between the government and the opposition after the election, that 3 commissioners would come from the government, 3 would come from the opposition. That is equal representation on both sides of the House, government and opposition, despite if there was a majority government or a minority government. That's an important issue that we need to emphasize. And furthermore, not having only taken away the power of the President to appoint all these persons, it then went further and said that the leader opposition, as a form of power sharing and between the leader opposition and the government, again, all of this is to deal with political and ethnic insecurities. This is what this formula was all about. And so the leader opposition was to, and it's embedded in the Constitution, is to submit 6 names, not unacceptable to President, from which he would select 1 as a chairperson. So that arose out of the pre-92 struggle for free and fair elections. And one of the major issues, of course, in that period was the vote being counted at the place of poll, and also the manner in which the Elections Commission, the integrity of the election machinery and the integrity of the Election Commission would be safeguarded. And so the formula of 3-3-1, 3-3 being for the opposition and government, and the 1 name of the chairperson coming from names proposed by leader opposition, from which the President would select 1. As a sign of good faith, of being able to ensure that whoever is the chairperson of GECOM is a person that has the support of both the opposition and the government. That is the whole concept of building trust, consensus building, and ensuring that the machinery at the very top is one that is recognized and acknowledged and supported by both sides of the House. That is government and opposition. Well, this legal and then constitutional provision has been in place, and these legal provisions started in 1991, and the constitutional provisions started in 2001, all the way to 2016, have been implemented in good faith according to the law and the Constitution. And it is now, as I said, under attack. And let me just trace back for some of our younger population, our younger viewers. In 1991, the leader opposition, Dr. Chetty Jagan, submitted 6 names to President Hoyt, and he selected Ambassador Rudy Collins as the GECOM chair. As you remember, Ambassador Rudy Collins is the one who chaired for the 1992 elections and delivered the first free and fair elections that we'd had in 28 years. 1994, the leader opposition Hoyt submitted 6 names to President Chetty Jagan, and he selected Mr. Hopkinson. Mr. Hopkins, I believe, was an engineer. Then again in 1996, the leader opposition Hoyt submitted 6 names to President Jagan. Again, this is now President Chetty Jagan again. and he selected attorney at law and, I believe, senior counsel at the time, Do Not Singh, who ran the 1997 elections. And 1994 was the elections run by, for local government elections, which Mr. Hopkinson oversaw. And again in 2000, Leader Opposition, Mr. Hoyt, submitted 6 names to President Jagdeo. And he selected, that is, Jagdeo selected, former Chief of Staff, Brigadier Joe Singh. And then in 2002, Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Hoyt, submitted 6 names, and President Jagdeo selected Dr. Suraj Bali, who only resigned in November 2016. All the other, just in case you're asking, how come the other chairman didn't last so long? Apparently that after each election, the chairpersons resigned after having fulfilled their mandate, delivered election, and then said that was enough. They didn't want more. But it seems Mr. Suraj Bali loved what he was doing and decided to stay on, because there's no clause in the Constitution or the laws that gives a term limit for the chairperson of the GECOM. And so he was there, the longest serving chairman of GECOM. And it is when he resigned in November 2016 that this is when all custom and practice and constitutional provisions for the last 24 years begin to unravel. The leading opposition, Jagdeo, was invited to submit a list of 6 names to President Granger in November 2016. After consulting with civil society bodies, never done before by any leader of opposition with regard to these nominations, the list of 6 names was submitted. In the first week of January 2016, the leader of opposition learned from the media that the president had rejected all 6 of the names. 3 days later, he received a formal letter from the the Ministry of the Presidency advising him that the president had rejected all 6 names. We later learned in the media that the grounds for the rejection was that the nominees had to be judges or retired judges. The leader of opposition asked to meet with the president, as this was a divergent view in our interpretation of the constitutional provisions and the requirements. This was also rejected, and instead the president proposed that his named representative, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Minister Basil Williams, meet with a representative named by Mr. Jagdeo. The leading opposition named former Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandalal and Priya Manikjan, to meet with Minister Basil Williams. It took almost 4 weeks to get an appointment with Mr. Williams, and it was all for naught. It was only to receive the parliamentary opposition's legal interpretation of the constitutional provisions. In March, the president was asked for another list of 6 names, and this time, based on a request by the leading opposition, provided his own criteria for the persons to be considered eligible for nomination. These criteria have been repeatedly published and referred to in the press, in particular in Kayatri News, has made a point at almost every second article they do on GECOM that they repeat the points that the president put forward for the criteria. Judge, retired judge, knowledgeable of electoral systems and electoral machinery, and capacity to deal with civil jurisdiction issues, as well as a person who must not be an activist in religion, gender, race, etc., etc. These criteria, as you know, have been the subject to much public debate. Again, consultations were held with the civil society invited by the leading opposition, Mr. Jagdeo. Many names were submitted, but this time, my dear friends, many good citizens who were nominated by civil society decided not to accept, as they did not wish to be publicly humiliated by the president's rejection of their names. Finally, on May the 2nd, 2017, the list of 6 names, remember this is now a second list, were submitted, comprising of 2 retired judges, 1 former magistrate, 2 lawyers, and 1 businessman. A month later, on June the 3rd, the president again rejected the list. No reasons have been given as to why he rejected these, because in our mind we tried to comply with the criteria, with most of the criteria he named. But still, keeping to our position that the Constitution doesn't give him that option of providing his own criteria for deciding whether to accept or not accept a list. The Constitution is supreme. So far, my dear friends and listeners, 12 outstanding citizens have been rejected publicly. This is humiliation and embarrassment for them. The Leader Opposition will now be holding, based on the invitation that we received and the meeting that the President and the Leader Opposition had recently, that we will now be holding, we in the opposition will be holding, a third round of consultations with civil society bodies in the coming week to nominate and propose another 6 names. And we shall submit another 6 names. However, remember, while all this is going on, there is no functioning commission. So there are 6 commissioners who can't meet because there is no chairman, now going on for 8 months. So who is running the Elections Commission? Who is in control of the election machinery while all this is going on? You're right. You know who it is. The Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Lowenfield, the same one who is blocking the election petition case the PPPC brought to the courts. And what I mean by blocking, we put in an election petition case. We approached the courts after the 2015 elections in accordance with the law and Constitution. Mr. Lowenfield is the Chief Elections Officer, who, by the way, in the petition, we're calling on the Elections Commission to respond to our case of the election petition. However, by some very unusual happenings, the Chief Elections Officer approaches the court to demand that the election petition not be heard, that they should not be heard. This leads to a delay in terms of hearings, in terms of why it should not be heard, why it should be heard, and so on. In February 2016, the Chief Justice, Mr. Ian Chang, rules that the election petition case is in order and it should proceed to be heard. Immediately after that, the Chief Elections Officer appealed the decision of the judge, Chief Justice, and that is where we're stuck. And now you remember that we've had a shortage of Court of Appeal judges. You remember that from February until about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, there was only one judge sitting in the High Court, and therefore the Appeal Court, and therefore cases were piling up and not being heard because the President refused to submit, to appoint the nominees made by the Judicial Service Commission for 4 judges over a year ago. And so the 2 persons have been named is based on the President advising the new heads of the Judicial Service Commission, having appointed an acting Chancellor and Chief Justice, that they review and come up with names. And therefore 2 people have been appointed. We don't know when our case will be heard, when the appeal by Mr. Lowenfield will be heard, but it is now 2 years. So the person who is blocking, and by the way, his legal fees have been paid by the Elections Commission. So talk about conflict of interest. We're taking the Elections Commission to court to prove that the integrity of the machinery is in order. And here it is that the Chief Elections Officer is now challenging us on the right to bring a petition. And by the way, we're supposed to have confidence in Mr. Lowenfield to oversight and to manage the election machinery, even under a commission. Worse yet, when there's no commission? Tell me, what do you think? So it's like putting a cat to watch milk while the owner's gone out in the yard or gone out to work. You know what happens. The cat can't keep away from the milk, can it? In the meantime, the Minister of Communities, Mr. Bulkan, has announced that local government elections will be held on December 7th, 2018, a mere 18 months from now. And the GECOM decision in August 2016 to hold a new house-to-house electronic biodata registration was denied funding by the Minister of Finance in December 2016 when he slashed the proposed budget of GECOM of $5 billion to $2 billion, therefore denying the decision and therefore blocking the decision of the GECOM to hold a new house towers registration in July this year. Trust, you say? Trust? Trust a precious thing. And maybe having now come back again and having left the UK and being rather cynical about this trust issue, it bewilders me even more how the Brits can just trust. Because as a Guyanese, we have hardcore facts and evidence of why trust is such a delicate and difficult thing to achieve in our country. Well, rumors abound that the president will name his own person outside of the constitutional revisions. And this whole masquerade that we're going through from November last year to now is just playing for time. Just playing for time. Hold up the election petition in court. No appeals that can be heard for many months. You have the finances of GECOM being slashed, so no house towers registration. You have the minister bringing forward the date for local government elections from 2019 to 2018. You have no chairman of the GECOM, and therefore it is now 8 months. No chairman. Therefore the commission isn't operating, and therefore the secretariat, headed by the chief elections officer, is running the election machinery. And so, trust. Trust, you say? Let us be very clear on the matter of whether the president can appoint his own person or not. Let's be very, very clear. And this has been debated and looked at at different seminars and panel discussions and TV programs and articles in the newspapers. One thing they all agree on: the Constitution of Guyana does not allow the president of Guyana, whoever he or she may be, to name his own person. He can only do so if the leading opposition does not provide any list. So were a situation occur, the leader opposition is called on to provide a list, and he says, I'm not going to give you any list, I'm not doing that. The president can appoint, but he has to appoint only within a very limited frame, and he has to appoint a judge or a retired judge. That's it. He can't go outside of that mandate. However, in this case, the leading opposition is in compliance with the Constitution. He provided a list, it was rejected. He provided another list, it's rejected. He provided a third list, and we could go on like this for quite a while, because the Constitution only allows the president to name a person if no list has been provided in accordance with the Constitution. So, therefore, the leading opposition has submitted 12 names so far in 2 lists, and is preparing to submit another 6 names. The president cannot step outside the Constitution and undermine and violate it. This would be a travesty, something that all Guyanese should be deeply and profoundly frightened of if it were to happen. And therefore I believe that Mr. Granger must know that this would be what they call the, when armies cross the river and therefore declare war. This would be a very serious declaration against the Constitution by an executive president, something that would be extraordinarily dangerous in our setting. So let's do some maths, huh? And the maths are that we have a CEO of GECOM who has blocked the hearing of the case on 2 occasions, our election petition case. Number 1, so that's number 1, and number 2, we have the Minister of Finance preventing the budget for new house towers registration being approved by the Parliament. He blocks it, rips it down by more than half. And then we have a president who has rejected 2 lists, so I give him 2 points. So 1 + 1 + 2 equals 4. And the answer is, when we come to what that 4 means, is that the APNU AFC government has no interest in allowing elections that could throw them out of power. Remember that the APNU AFC coalition promised a fresh start and a time to change. Their manifesto stated that they would promise to be inclusive, clean up corruption, more efficient. They promised a good life. They became the new government with 4,526 votes, more than the People's Progressive Party. Less than a seat in Parliament, less than 1 seat in Parliament. And therefore you can't half and quarter human beings, so they got the seat. But at the same elections in 2015 May, they only won by 4,000, if we're saying the elections weren't rigged. So let's assume that the number is there just as a fact, that's the number. The PPPC won 7 of the 10 regional democratic councils. And then 10 months later won 52 of the 71 local authorities. So any government who is sitting on such quicksand must be concerned. And the fact that their popularity is waning must be further cause for concern, their concern. The APNO AFC knows that their term of office will be short. And if elections were free and fair, they would be out of power. The hardships of the APNO AFC coalition is wrecking on the Guyanese people, the rapidly declining economy, the increasing cost of living, and the erosion of parliamentary democracy will seal their fate in the 2020 elections. The appointment of the chairman of GECOM in accordance with the Constitution is critical to allaying the fears of our people that the integrity of the election machinery is and will be protected. This is a critical ingredient to any trust Guyanese have in the electoral system. Let's have your say. Let's see what you think. Do you believe that this whole process of the Elections Commission and trust is a critical issue at this point, and one that could be a determining factor on which way this government goes and what happens in the next year or two? So we'll open the lines and we'll open for you. For our friends who are fasting and Ramadan, we know that Eid will probably be Sunday or Monday, so while I'm waiting for calls to come in, we wish to extend greetings for you because we won't be back until next Thursday, and we hope that you have a safe and wonderful conclusion to Ramadan and that you will be able to enjoy it with your family and friends, whether it is on Sunday or on Monday.
We're sorry.
Maybe people don't expect me to finish so early at 1 o'clock. Yeah, but this is an issue that we have to deal with. The fact that the chairman of the local of the Elections Commission, why is the president not finding in any of the 12 names, none of the 12 names, a person who is fit and proper? Because the Constitution says, retired judge from within Guyana, operating in the Commonwealth, it must be a Guyanese, and that, or any other fit and proper person, and the law and legal precedent defines what it means by all that. So the lawyers have had a good day interpreting all of that. But why would the president embarrass 12 good citizens by rejecting them? Why would the president not find one of those 12 names acceptable? Why would he be calling for another one? Well, you know, the rumors abound that the person has been already selected and that it's a former judge. But that would mean, if those rumors were true, it would mean the president is prepared to step outside the Constitution. And as I said, that would be not only tragic, it would be absolutely dangerous. So let me take a call coming in. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm hearing you. Would you like to move away from your radio or whatever? I'm getting feedback.
Yeah. I'm calling concerning the West Demerara Road project.
Yes.
The contractor is supposed to maintain the part of the road till he hand over the road, but that is not happening. A lot of shabby work, and they inform the consultant, but they have an attitude. So the city of the country cannot say anything anymore about no kind of work going on. So I want somebody to have, because you are a member of parliament, you are a representative, you all have...
This is the West Demerara Road? Or West?
Yeah, from Freedom Hoop to Perica.
Freedom Hoop to Perica,
Yeah,
okay.
it's bushes running on the roadside. The contractor not maintaining the road, that he hand over the road as yet. The NDC not have the permission to clean the roadside as yet because the road is not hand over. Even to the government or to the NDC. But the consultant them seem to me a little corrupt because they're not taking nothing from the citizen of the area cannot say anything. All you have a copy of the contract. Some part incomplete as yet.
Right.
Right? And it's dangerous. You see a lot of accidents happen on the west side here because they have no sign, they have no reflector, nothing, and when they have construction site, the site going on.
Yeah, I was up there a few weeks ago and I noticed on a Sunday that work was going on, but I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. And I was surprised that the safety, signals and stuff like that were very, very inadequate. So you're right about that.
And I like to see that individual, I don't know if I could say that here, Mr. General Rahman, claims he's a rice farmer, he's not just fooling the public. He's not a rice farmer. And he run a family company and robbing all the shareholders for the company now he's paying income tax.
All right, we won't go into a personal attack on Mr. Rahman, but I know what you're talking about.
But paying no income tax. You have to pay tax. He's sharing under this administration now, covering you up, not to pay tax.
Well, I'm sure that Mr. Rahman will hear this program, and therefore, but it is true that a number of people who are supporters of the government are not paying him tax, and they're going after a lot of us who have paid and harassing us. So thank you very much for calling. Okay, have a good day. I will raise the issue of the West Bank Road. Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm always fiddling with this machine. I'm not very technologically literate, it appears. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
I just want to find out what happened to the election petition that was signed, that was filed 2 years ago. I never heard back anything about it.
Well, that's what I was talking about today on the program, in that it was presented, and then Lowenfield and his lawyers went to court to prevent it being heard by Chief Justice Chang. The case in 2016 was caught up with hearing the objections by Lowenfield and his lawyer to why the case should not be heard. 2015. In February 2016, Ian Chang, as Chief Justice, ruled that the case should proceed, and that he gave that order. Mr. Lowenfield and his lawyer then went back to the courts to appeal the decision of the Chief Justice, and that was in 2016, and that's where we are right now. And as I said on the program a little while ago, we didn't have an appeal court. We didn't have an appeal court fully filled. There was only one judge between February and this month, May, so that a number of cases have piled up. So that's what I tried to say on the program. I believe concern of why the election petition has been blocked. How do we trust the Election Commission machinery when it is headed by a person who has made great efforts in the last 2 years to block our election petition from being heard in the courts? Right? So I hope I've satisfied your answer. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon, Former Minister.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Thank you. I'm hanging in there.
Very happy that I get to with this program.
Okay.
Well, for the last 2 years, there is no improvement, as the blindest person could see that. And the next thing, the local government election that held last year.
In 2016, yeah.
Yes, in 2016. We didn't hear the result as yet.
Huh?
The result, I didn't hear the result as yet. Who win that election?
Local government elections?
Yeah, the local government election.
Where have you been, my dear friend?
the general election, you don't hear that every day broadcast.
No, that's true. Obviously, I know what you're getting at.
Yes.
You're right. The 71 local authorities, we won 52 of the 71 local authorities, and I guess that between GECOM and the government, they didn't want to give us credit for having got over 30-odd thousand votes more than the government less than a year after the 2015 elections. So they were embarrassed, I believe, and the GECOM and everybody didn't make a fuss about it. And of course, certain media that don't like the PPP also didn't want to make a big thing of it either. But we control 7 of the 10 RDCs, and we control over 65% of the local authorities. So the government's sitting on quicksand. They may have the power, but they don't have the base. You know, it's like a pyramid sitting up in the air by itself, and the base is gone.
Yes.
So
I don't know. There is a couple more of the ministers will have to be moved soon because, but the 2 main persons will have to. They might get moved later down in the day, and you know who I'm talking about. They have like 2 bumper ball bouncing here, there, and everywhere. So I hope that the next election, Mr. Jagdeo, take back this country.
I hope so too.
Okay.
I think the PPP is the only hope for this country.
And I think Mr. Ejel should be the Prime Minister candidate.
Okay, thank you very much for your opinion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the next caller. Hi, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon, Miss Gail.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm asking the AG if he could please be a responsible citizen. Right?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Because he behaving in a good manner.
You mean the Attorney General?
Correct, madam. Yes.
Okay.
AG, yes. Basil Williams, yes.
Do you really think I have power to make Mr. Williams behave himself?
Okay, thank you. And let me say good afternoon to Bishop Juan Ejel. Please
Yes.
stay strong, my brother.
Yes, he will.
Yes, yes.
He's got our solidarity. They don't like him at all, but we know why,
Oh.
and he's doing a
We
good
like
job.
him, we like him.
Good, excellent. I'll let him
Put
know.
him there, the people have him there.
Right,
Yeah.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we're having some callers come in. I promised you sometimes that I take over too much of the programs. I'm trying to behave a little better this time and giving you more time to call in. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, I think you have the power to let Mr. Basil Williams, behave himself. You have it. All you have to do is link with the right people.
Oh, really?
Yes, you do. You see, collective consciousness will help you, especially people that think positive. So collective consciousness and positiveness will rise up and you can get answers to settle him.
You know, my concern isn't really Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams I've known for a long time. My concern is the government and what they're doing to this country, and
Yeah,
therefore I don't
I know.
personalize it. I don't personalize it necessarily with any one individual. I mean, I have my very strong views on a number of people, including the Prime Minister and others, which I'm sure you may know about. But,
Yes, I do.
but at the same time, my major concern, because whether Mr. Williams behaves himself or not, the issue is that the country is going down.
I know.
And so that's my major concern. The economy is declining. The PPP is pointing out to the government things it needs to do to remedy the situation, stop the collapse of sugar, stop the dismissal of all these thousands of sugar workers, save the rice industry, do something about bauxite and forestry and
Well,
mining.
that's what I say.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That if you have people with the right mind and
Yeah.
they find solution to what they think they're smart, if you have solution and you have answers to combat with them or
Yes.
to fight with them, of course you can win.
Yes,
It's all about education and it's all about thoughts.
exactly, yeah.
You understand what you're doing, you understand the scenario, and you paddle your boat and you ride over.
Thank you. Well, we will paddle our boat, but we won't go over Catcher also. We'll go up the Essequibo River until we're able to take Georgetown and Guyana in 2020
Yes,
elections.
of course. I can come and help you.
Lovely. We look forward to that.
So I have to come to the party and at Freedom House there?
Yes, you can.
When? What time? and
Well, they
when
have
you'll
working
be
hours. They have working hours. How far are you from?
there? I'm in Station Street, Kitty.
Okay. All right. Yeah, come to Freedom House. And so you'll be able to meet someone there, okay?
Not you.
I'm not always there. No.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, what you can do is call Freedom House and leave a message for me with your number, and I can call you back.
Okay, no
Okay?
problem.
All right.
Okay.
Take care of yourself. Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. Let's see how the calls are coming in. There are a number of issues. We're talking about GECOM and the issue of trust and what the president is doing. Does that help trust or hurt trust? The attempt to develop trust in our country, to have election machinery that is above board, in which the people feel confident they can vote without having their votes tampered in any way, regardless of what the Carter Center said and whatever. We know what happened on May the 11th, 2015. We know the violence and the mob violence, and the fact that we brought a motion to Parliament calling on the government to compensate the victims of the violence on 2015, including Kwame McCoy, including the people in Sophia, including a number of people who lost their vehicles on East Coast, etc. And the government's response, especially by the Minister Felix, was that Kwame McCoy is lucky and dead. And that, no, they were not going to compensate for anything. They were not responsible. So we have an idea where things are going and what is the attitude. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public
Good
Importance.
afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you doing? Hello?
Yes,
I want the public to know
yes.
the previous administration say the PPP was involved in having drug trade and have drugs friends. I want the public to know the lawyers them who used to defend the drugs men them was who? Mr. Ramjatan, and others used to defend all the big drug dealers, them running up at the court and defend the drug dealers them. So who was involved in the drugs?
Right.
So the public should know that.
Yes.
Them still representing drug dealer undercover, advising the drug dealers them should know that.
Yeah.
The drug dealer will take a come back to the country to reveal who is representing, who is the liar.
Yeah.
Glad he could come back when he get released from Jamaica. When he come back, he can release. Yeah, but I hope they will take you out before he come back. Because you come and reveal who is the liar.
Yeah. Well, we
The
know
public
who,
should know, you know,
Yeah.
who was representing them people they say.
right. Okay.
Yeah, the public have to know.
Yeah, because they've been told all the time.
The young generation should know, you know.
Yeah.
In Mr. Desmond's administration, or Mr. Doga, borrow $1 million from the bank and send out his signature. He messed up the rice industry.
Okay.
And you want Mr. General Harmon, who did for the board, he should get charged too. And the board, he should get charged. He
Yeah,
was
well,
on the board the other day.
Yeah,
He should
well,
get charged too, because he knows what's going on.
yeah, well, it's rather unusual that in the GRDB case that the police are only charging some members of the board and not all the members of the board. But the board is a corporate entity and it's responsible as a collective, not as individuals.
You got the woman named Miss Peters on the charge sheet.
Beg your pardon?
Mrs. Peters. What's your charge sheet?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Well, we're having a variety of issues being raised today. Projects, road projects, the issue of the election petition, the local government issues, trying to influence people on how we do that, and also the most recent issues to do with drug money and so on. So let's take the next call. Let's take the next call. Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance. Hello? Hello? Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon, Ms. Gail Teixeira.
Yes, good afternoon.
Here now, I just asking the government if they could please give me back with $10,000 for the children. You know the grant?
The grant cash, yeah.
Yes, we really need it now because we too much of job losses. Right, we can't afford it, and plus we got to pay VAT on school supplies.
Yeah.
So we can't afford it now, so we asking them that we really need it now.
Yes.
Yes, because we had it, you know, not that
No,
we
I know,
asking
I
them
know
to
you
put
had
it in
it.
place, it was there.
I know.
So we're from the children.
I know. We
Children
raised
need it.
Well, especially now as the economy is having trouble, that more and more people are really feeling the squeeze with VAT on electricity and water, telephone, on if you're using internet and so on, as well as VAT on all these school supplies, not just fees and education. So people are really feeling it hard right now. Really, really.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had raised with Parliament when they cut this in the 2015 budget. We raised that be restored. We did that in 2016. We did that in December 2016 when we were discussing the 2017 budget. As I say, the government is hard ears. They want to do things that will bring relief to our people. But we will continue to champion this issue that the cash grant for every child in Guyana registered in school between the nursery age and completion of secondary school should be restored. We believe very strongly it should be restored, more now than even before, as people really are feeling the economic pinch in every single household, everybody you talk to. So yes, I thank you very much for reminding us of this issue and bringing it back into the front, the former caller. Okay, let's go. Let's take another caller. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Hello.
Hello, yes. Matters of Public Importance.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to know that if you all could send a letter to the President, and I want to know what is fit and proper to be a GECOM chairman, because I don't know if somebody serves as a judge, they have a degree to do that job, and they serve in the court already, and now they are choosing to become a GECOM chairman, and they are not fit and proper. I want to know what is fit and proper. So if you could ask the President to send a letter to him and let he explain to this nation what is proper and fit for persons to be here, because all these soldiers that employ in different ways, how come they are fit and proper? And these people that have degrees that serve as judge are not fit and proper. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent point you've made, sir. I think you're absolutely right. The issue of fit and proper has been debated by the legal people after the president rejected the first list. And there is legal precedence on this issue to guide the courts on what that means. And Mr. Granger is aware of these issues. I'll just give you an example. For example, and it may not be exactly comparable, but in the, what election was it, 1985, we had to go into Rupununi as temporary JPs, and at that time President Hoyt had agreed that he would allow the PPP 6 names of persons who be made temporary JPs for the purpose of signing up candidates for the list for the 85 elections, and the PPP submitted 6 names, my name and 5 male leading comers of the party. When Mr. Hoyt approved the 5 names under the Constitution, then my name was omitted, and Mr. Hoyt's office made a declaration that I was not a fit and suitable person to be made Justice of the Peace on a temporary basis for the 1985 elections to register to sign up people, candidate forms in Rupununi. So at that time, the issue was that this was all at the caprice of the president or his predilections, whether he liked you or not. Past that in the 90s, and obviously pre-91 when we made the agreement to do with how the chairman was to be appointed, and furthermore right up by custom and practice and constitutional amendments to now, we have had a variety of people who have been head of the GECOM. As we pointed out in the program earlier, Ambassador Rudy Collins. I don't know what Mr. Collins' political predilection is. Mr. Hopkinson, again, these were not lawyers, but people who are qualified and whose integrity was the issue. Attorney at law, do not sing. At that time, he was not a minister or attorney general at that time. Joe Singh, chief staff. Again, these are all highly qualified people. The issue was, could they manage elections, and were they men of integrity? Then you had Dr. Serge Bally, and the process was each time, as I pointed out early in the program, how Mr. Hoyt submitted the 6 names, and the various PPP representatives, or presidents, selected one. and as in 1991, President Hoyt selected from a list presented by Leader Opposition Dr. Jagan. So that fit and proper is a very important definition. You're right, and I think that you're right to ask that the President should publicly say what he understands fit and proper is in his criteria that he submitted of what he was looking for in the Chairman Elections Commission. A lot of the areas had to do with the selection of a judge or a retired judge. And also a judge who had knowledge of electoral systems. Now, I don't know where you can find that, but it also pointed out a lawyer with 7 years practice who is eligible to be a judge. One of the issue were magistrates. And of course, the areas where he said he would not accept persons had to do with whether you're an activist in religion, activist in gender, activists in culture, and so on and so on. So that it meant that religious people who were head of religious organizations, were automatically disqualified according to him, as well as women who were fighting for women's rights, etc., etc. And so the fit and proper by his own criteria, which was published in the press, he seems to define fit and proper. But the fit and proper person doesn't have to be a judge, a retired judge, or even a lawyer. It can be a person who fulfills the qualifications to oversee and manage the election machinery as defined by the law and the Constitution. And the Constitution states what are the responsibilities of GECOM in managing and overseeing the integrity of the election machinery. So that I think you're right, we should call on the President to do that, because after rejecting 2 lists, he really needs to come straight and say, well, if you've had 12 names and all, there's a problem. And by the way, the second list was developed in consultation with civil society based on the criteria he gave us. And so 2 retired judges, which the Constitution provides for, which his own criteria provides for, were rejected. A former magistrate and now lawyer in private practice was rejected. 2 lawyers with more than 7 years of practice who are respected in the Bar Association and in the legal profession were rejected. So you have 5 of the 6 names in the second list who are in line with the President's own criteria that he gave to Mr. Jagdewan, which was publicized earlier on. And the 6th person is a private businessman who is a pilot and a former GDF officer. So he doesn't qualify either, according to the President. So the caller is absolutely right. It is time that we find out the President's interpretation, because there is a legal interpretation. Fit and proper person can be any person who is considered fit and capable to manage the operations to be the chairman of the GECOM. And that's why I said I gave the names of all those who have been GECOM chairpersons from 1991 to 2016, none of which were a judge, none of which were a lawyer, except attorney at law do not sing. He was the only one. But you had Collins, you had Hopkinson, you had Joe Singh, you had Serge Bali. You had 4 persons out, and the 5th was a person who was a lawyer and a senior counsel. So that of that period, 4 persons and all managed the elections, and all these elections were observed by international observers and found to be free and fair. So what is the problem with any of these names that have been submitted? So I thank the caller for making that point. Okay, next caller. We have about 5 minutes left. I'll give you 2 minutes and then I'll have to close the program.
Okay,
Hi, good afternoon, and sorry to have you waiting.
Yeah, I think that if the second list and the 4th list is not suitable for the government, he say that they not qualify or something.
Yeah.
Does he qualify to be a president?
I don't think that's the electorate to decide that one. The electorate, the voters of Guyana in 2020 will decide that one.
Because my president nobody never stood by at the side of him to make any speech. And he never hold a paper in his hand and be like, up and down looking at papers and looking at people. And my president never did that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The electorate of Guyana, the Guyanese people, when they vote in 2020, will make their voices heard. And that is why the issue of GECOM, the chairman of GECOM, and the functioning of GECOM are absolutely critical between now and 2020. that we're able to ensure the election machinery is tamper-proof, that it is above board, and of course, my cynicism, please forgive me, and my lack of trust, that for the last 8 months, the election machinery is unsupervised by the Commission, the 6 commissioners, or any chairman, and it is left to the behest of a gentleman whose main concern in the last 2 years is to ensure that he blocks the election petition we brought into the 2015 election results. I leave that for you to think about. So, I'm sorry for the next caller. We'll have to go off because we have about 3 minutes left. Let me see if I can give you 1 minute and promise 1 minute, okay? Thank you. Good afternoon. Hello?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, good.
I was second the last caller, and to me, no list that the PPP ever presented to the government they would ever after, because they want to put their own people to do their own thing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. That's short and sweet. Did you hear that? The caller has no faith in the government choosing any name that is put forward by the PPP. They reject the first list and the second list and more lists.
Hello.
Because, hello, matters of public importance. Last caller.
Good afternoon. I have a very important matter. I don't know if you could check it up for me.
Just 1 minute. Go ahead.
This is concerning home safe, security, and domestic service. We have not been paid since last month. This month we have not been paid. We're supposed to be paid on the 15th. That's one. Number two, this is a guard service, and we're not being paid by the hour. We're paid by the day. Thirdly, we'll be paid. We're not being paid double for Sunday, no overtime, no nothing. We just be paid by the day. If you work 25 days a month, you get paid for 25 days. You work 23 days, you get 23 days pay.
Right.
And what I would like to know is what's the labor law about this thing concerned. And if these people are culpable, that they should be brought to justice and to pay the poor class of worker the money, their rightful wage. Because we're the lowest paid worker in the country.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we've been paid two an hour. We've not been paid $2.55 that the government has been stipulated. And the government stipulated tax, 10%, 15%, 14% tax, and it's being implemented. And why our pay is not being implemented, $2.55 that hour that they are supposed to be getting.
Okay.
Why is not being implemented? Okay.
Okay, thank you, caller. These are very important issues. I'm glad you called in. Thank you for calling in. Can I ask you or any of the workers with you if you'd be prepared to go to the office of the Leader Opposition, 304 Church Street between New Garden and New Market Street, Peter Rose Street in Queenstown, New Garden and Peter Rose on Church, opposite Border Ground. Because the Member of Parliament who's in charge of labour issues, Gillian Burton Prasad, is normally there every day to raise, you can meet with her and raise the concerns, the labour issues, and then maybe she can help you take those up with the Ministry of Labour, or I understand it's no longer Ministry of Labour, Department of Labour, because these are labour violations. These are violations of the labour laws of our country, and I believe that you should be heard. So that we can get more details, would you be prepared, you or any of your colleagues, to go? Our working hours are from 9:30 to 5, 9 to 5 every day. Saturdays from about 9:30 to about 1:30. The telephone number 225-3432, 225-3432. You can call and ask for Miss Gillian Burton Prasad, Member of Parliament, and maybe arrange for when to meet with her I know because you're on shift system and all of you may have to organize yourselves. It's a very important issue. Thank you for calling in. Okay, well, it's time for me to close off, no? That we've had quite an interesting program today, and I thank you all for all the comments you made and the suggestions and the matters you raised for my attention and the attention of the opposition. Again, before I close, please let me wish our Muslim brothers and sisters that they have a wonderful Eid on Sunday or Monday, whichever day it falls, and that all of us, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, hold up to the beliefs and the principles and values that go along with Eid, no matter what our religion is. And so it's time to start. As I said, I've gone past winding down my program. I have to close off. And so I wish to thank you all for calling in. and for making our program so lively. We will see each other next Thursday, as usual, 12:30, 1:30. And I will ask too that that all of you don't drink and drive. For those of you who have not been fasting, don't drink and drive. Don't overdo it. Enjoy your weekend with your families. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, and let us meet back up again in Thursday, 12:30 once again. And remember what I said, and I keep saying all the time. And struggle we shall, and silent we shall not be. Remember that. And struggle we shall, and silent we shall not be. See you next Thursday. Take care of yourself.